Hi out there. We're live. I'm so excited today. I have a good friend of mine. I've known him for years, Dr. Brian King, who wrote a book called The Laughing Cure.
The Laughing Cure, right.
Yes.
I gotta say,
Did I get it right? I just blanked out for a second. But yes, The Laughing Cure.
what's funny about that is like seconds before the stream started, you were like, hey, we're going to talk about the Laughing Cure. Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, yeah. I
You know
blame
what it
it.
was?
I
Your
blame
theme
it on my
song.
chemo brain. I went through chemo like in 2021, so everything is chemo brain now. It's like blame it on that.
Oh,
That's
I
like
think it's your theme song, really. Your theme song is like so good. Like I started to jam out to it. I was just like, I want to listen to this. You're probably still in your head, like.
I have chemo brain. Yeah, you know what I should do? Like one of those like TikTok sounds. I have chemo brain. That's my excuse. What's yours?
Yeah, yeah. I don't have chemo brain. I don't know what my problem is.
No, I don't know. I think we have too much information now and
It's
too
true.
much stimuli, right? And so I think our brains are like, you know.
It,
Um,
it's true.
I
So
think
yes, I did write a book called The Laughing Cure. Look at that. I even got a copy of it on hand just so I can show it as a visual. It's a great book. Everybody should buy it.
absolutely. You can buy it on Amazon. Can they buy it directly from you?
They can buy it directly from me. I will autograph them when people do. They got to hit me up via my website or social media or something like that. I always try to accommodate people. But the cheaper option is to buy it through Amazon because Amazon doesn't like to pay authors royalties. So
You know what? I feel like it's your website,
yeah,
drbrianking.com. Okay,
King.
I'm gonna add it right here so people can see. Yes.
Perfect.
Amazing. So what inspired you to explore the connection between like laughter and healing? What propelled that?
Well, I'm a comedian, as we all are, and I also have a background in psychology, and so I actually that's when call me Dr. Brian King. I got a legit doctorate. I'm not. It's not just some stage name like Dr. Phil or Dr. Gray or
Oh, wait. Dr. Phil is not a doctor of any kind?
Oh no, he technically is, but it's not a PhD. I think I'm not sure. I haven't. I think he got a like a PsyD or something like that. I'm not positive, but no, he's technically a doctor. But Dr. Dre, now that guy, I don't think that's a real doctor.
Yeah, I know. We know. Uh, so, so what inspired you to write this book? Why? And I know you're a comedian and you're a psychologist. That's great. But did you want to just help other people? Did
Yeah.
you want to help yourself by writing it? What was your motivation?
I think the impetus of it came from doing open mics. And that
Oh,
as a comic, you probably notice this as well. But a lot of comedians, they got some problems. They got they got some issues, and they will often they will often comment that like getting on stage is therapeutic for them.
yes.
That stage is therapy. It's like a lot of them. It's a cliche open mic joke, but a lot of them would be like, you guys are cheaper than my therapist or whatever. So I started thinking about that, and if there was some real evidence to support, like the laughter and humor has some therapeutic benefit, and then Robin Williams died. I remember when Robin Williams passed. A lot of people were asking me, is like, if they say if laughter is so good for you, then why is it that Robin, why do comedians seem to be so tortured and so problematic, and of course my immediate response to that was like, well, if you're cursed with some demons, and
Hmm.
your head, there's many ways to develop coping mechanisms, and some maybe the people who develop the strongest coping mechanisms can become well-known professional comedians, and so anyway, so me thinking about that a lot sort of led me down this pathway, and then I was doing a series of lectures on the subject of the health benefits of humor.
Right.
There's been a lot of a lot of people say, "Hey, laughter is the best medicine." That's a common phrase that people throw out, and I was never convinced that laughter had any benefit whatsoever. But when I started to think about these lines, and it was, like I said, a combination of like the open micers, acting like this was something that was helping them, the the loss of professional, famous comedians to things like depression-related suicide, or
Right.
and I started to think about, is there some potential benefit, and that's when I started diving in and looking at existing research, and I was really pleased to find out that yes, laughter does have some qualities to it, some healthy qualities, and so I started doing these lectures, these seminars across the country. That led me actually to the book. The book came after that, but I had already started thinking about the ideas that came into the book, before
Yeah.
that. And I wasn't necessarily going to write them down for public consumption until I was approached in Los Angeles. I was doing a seminar somewhere in LA, I forget where, but an agent came to me, halfway through my talk, and he introduced himself as like, "Hey, I'm an agent," and living in LA, somebody says agent, you're not thinking, So I'm like, "Oh, you're an agent? I need representation, I'm out here struggling, man, trying to carve out a piece of this pie." And he says to me, "Yeah, I represent this publisher," and suddenly, oh, okay, that kind of agent, But he said that they had this publisher was actually thinking about publishing a book on humor and the health benefits of humor, and they had already approached Patch Adams. If you're familiar with Patch Adams, speaking of Robin Williams, Robin Williams played
Yes.
Patch Adams in the movie, and so they had already approached Patch Adams, and apparently Patch Adams had turned them down, and so he's like, so you're our second choice. And I was like,
Oh,
second choice to Patch Adams, I'm okay with that.
100%. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. That's an honor.
Like at that point in my career, like nobody had heard of me. Nobody knows who I am, and so I'm okay with that. And so I got Patch Adams' unwanted book deal, and next thing I knew, I'm at the Chateau Marmont, and we're signing some contracts, and then I took a time off that year to write a book, and that was actually the first of a series of books that had actually been produced out of my brain. So
Absolutely. And that's a very inspirational story. Thank you for sharing that.
yeah,
I
my
yeah,
advice to my advice to young to people who want to be aspiring writers, my advice is always, it's pretty simple, really. First, you got to get a PhD in psychology. Then you got to do open mics for 10 years, and then you got to just randomly be doing a talk in LA and have some agent approach you. It's a piece of cake.
yes, amazing. Well, that's amazing. That's a great story. I love that. So can you share some of the scientific evidence supporting that laughter is healthy? It has literally health benefits.
Yeah.
What are those benefits?
Well, there's a lot of them. I mean, I don't want to spoil the book,
Give us a couple. Give us a couple of
common knowledge. I will say that my favorite benefit of laughter is that it helps us manage stress. And as we all know, like there's something stressful in our lives, we're angry or upset or we're worried about something. A good laugh just kind of helps us change the channel in our brain. That might be our experience, right? We might say, oh, well, I might go see a comedy show to distract me from, all the stuff that's bothering me in life, or I might make a joke to make light of a situation that otherwise would make me very sad and depressed.
Yes.
But there's actually research that shows that laughter helps to suppress stress hormones. As soon as we start laughing, the presence of those stress hormones go down. Things like cortisol, for example.
Cortisol, yeah.
Primary stress hormone, and so. There is a lot of validity to the idea that laughter does help us manage stress. And stress, a lot of people don't realize, stress is the root cause of a lot of our emotions, whether we label it as stress or not, like anger, sadness, fear, etc. Those
Yeah,
are all stress related. And so
absolutely.
help us to deal with depression, helps us to deal with anxiety, helps us to deal with anger issues. It helps us to deal with quite a bit. And so that's probably my favorite benefit of laughter overall.
I agree. When I went through my cancer healing journey, I was stage 3. I did surgery, chemo, radiation, the whole thing. I'm a triple threat. And so I am telling you that I wrote a whole cancer comedy special,
Nice.
wrote a book, but I didn't write like the book directly or the jokes directly. I just wrote every day how I was feeling, and jokes would come up, and I just wrote them. And that helped me deal with it so much. Instead of going the miserable route, like, oh, poor me, why am I, I was like, I'm just going to make fun of this, of my side effects from chemo, which were, I had 20.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so there's plenty of jokes there. So yeah, it definitely, I'm telling you, it helps so much to deal with stressful situations and extreme situations like near death
Yeah.
situations, because you can actually be unalived from the treatment or the disease. So yeah,
There's
it really helps.
I'm very happy that you were able to kick that. But there's a lot of research out there that shows that cancer does relate quite a lot to our mental and emotional state. Uh,
Agreed.
our immune system, and I'm no expert on that kind of work, but I've read it, put it in the book, and I'm not a medical doctor, but I do know that two types of cells in your immune system, gamma interferon cells and natural killer cells. These are cells that get a boost when we're laughing. When we're laughing, these cells
Yes.
increase in our immune system, and those cells specifically target cancer. Laughter,
Wow.
they really do. They have that specific function. Now, I don't know. I'm not going to make the claim that laughter is helping us to fight off cancer or even prevent cancer, but
Why not? Why not?
because I'm not that kind of doctor. But like I said,
No, I know, but I think it's one of the things that can help you,
yeah, yeah,
right?
exactly.
And it has to do also with your attitude.
Exactly. And so a positive attitude, it stems from, thinking a certain way. Laughter and having a sense of humor helps you think a certain more positively. All these things relate to each other, but there literally is a biological mechanism
Yeah.
behind it. It isn't just, you sit around feeling sorry for yourself all the time. You're
Mhm.
not boosting your immune system.
Yeah,
Uh, you,
100%.
you laugh occasionally, you have positive thoughts, you are boosting your immune system. And so all
Yes.
that really helps. I always like to tell people that I think the purpose of laughter is to help us to deal with internal threats, internal threats like that come from our thoughts and so forth. And I would suggest that a lot of forms of cancer are related to those types of internal threats. Now, there's plenty of sources of cancer out there, and I'm definitely not a professional in that regard. But there is evidence that shows that laughter very specifically boosts those elements of your immune system that help you to counter the effects of cancer. And I think that's just wonderful.
Yes, it's amazing. I can tell you, I can attest to that, because I made a choice. I was like, I can be miserable through with a treatment, or I can have fun. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to have fun.
Yeah.
If I have text messages with my caregiver, my one of my best friends, she helped me through the journey, and they're hysterical. They're like, like I'm having these horrible side effects. I'm texting her the funniest stuff, and that helped me deal with it, and making her laugh
Yeah.
also made me happy. So I think also that cancer, in my personal opinion, in my situation, I went through a lot of grief before, like the couple of years before I got diagnosed. So I honestly do believe that the sadness and the grief that I was going through kind of helped the cancer grow. That's my feeling. Again, I'm not even a doctor in
Well,
psychology.
it didn't.
So
It didn't help your body to prevent it. We got
exactly.
the message. It maybe the cancer had some other origin, but it
Yes.
didn't have. Your emotional state was not doing anything to help your immune system. Yeah.
I agree 100%. And that's why I think it's so important to do the flip thing. I call it the flip
Mhm.
method. Whenever we are having all these intrusive thoughts and they're depressing and they're like negative thoughts,
Yeah.
I flip them and make them positive. For example, like if I'm nervous about something or like afraid, and
Yep.
I feel butterflies in my stomach, I'm like, oh, I'm actually excited about
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
flip it to a positive emotion, and it does make a huge difference.
Yeah, yeah. The interpretation is key. It really is. There's an interesting. You mentioned writing jokes enough to write a book or whatever, but in my book, I do have an interview with a stand-up comedian from Oklahoma
Yes.
who had pretty severe cancer, and he wrote several books, and I interviewed him, and he fully attributed his survival to the fact that he was performing comedy. Now I wrote this book. It's going on maybe 8 years ago. He unfortunately has passed in that time.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear.
It was wonderful that just to get to know him and all that. And of course, his name's Stam Silliman, and if anybody does pick up the book, they'll hear his story in there. Uh, I also talked to somebody who worked for Cancer Treatment Centers of America,
Mhm.
and one of the things I find fascinating about them, and I can't say that this is still true because the book was written a while ago,
Yeah.
but at the time I knew that they had a laughter therapist at every single one of their cancer centers.
Wow.
Laughter therapy being this field that's sort of based on capitalizing on the benefits that laughter has, and so at every single one of their locations they have a laughter therapist, and that person's job is essentially to help cancer patients survive by making them laugh, or by encouraging laughter. And quite frankly, I mean, as a comedian, as a humorist, I could never find a better use of laughter and humor than helping cancer patients recover. I really do think that that's a wonderful application. I don't know that they're still doing that. I hope they still are, but
I hope
there's a,
so.
there's a lot of that out there. And so, if you attribute beating cancer to in part to the fact that you were keeping your spirits up and by laughing and by using your sense of humor, that almost certainly was part of it. Almost.
I think so. I think so. And I didn't have any, I mean, I had side effects from chemo, but I didn't have any like major things happening. It was all,
Mhm.
normal things that happen when you go through the treatment. Some people have like really like life threatening side effects, and I didn't. And I think it was because I was laughing at the 20 side effects constantly.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah,
And I'm not going to say what it was, but it's hysterical.
yeah. There's humor in everything. There's
Yeah.
humor in all tragedy. They always say comedy is tragedy plus time. And
Yes.
maybe sometimes it's too soon. Maybe we're not ready to laugh about it. But
Yeah.
there's humor in everything. I find humor in all of the horrible things that I've suffered through or had to experience. There is. It's and the more you can look back on those kinds of experiences with humor instead of just dwelling in misery. Oh yeah, that was awful. Letting it fester. I think it's a much better situation.
Oh, I agree. Were there any situations where laughter um, played a crucial role in overcoming a challenge, a personal challenge for you?
Hmm. There's a lot. I laugh at everything, and
Yeah.
so pretty much everything I've ever experienced that was negative has led me to laugh about it. I don't know that no like significant tragedies, like nothing on the level of suffering from cancer popped to mind, but minor things. Like say I was robbed last year.
Oh,
in Mexico City on my birthday. It was
Oh, I'm so sorry. That sucks.
it does suck. It does suck. Being robbed generally does suck. But then I was robbed on my birthday, which added, extra level of,
Yeah.
of pain, and I did a comedy show in Mexico City the next day, and that almost that entire set was making jokes about this guy that this robbery that had taken place, and the biggest, the primary loss with the being robbed was that my camera was stolen. Like,
Wow.
yeah, I'm a photographer,
Yes.
and I always carry a pretty decent camera with me. And so this camera is, it's a pretty expensive little rig I had. It was stolen from me,
Oh,
and that wouldn't be so bad if I didn't spend the entire day sightseeing and taking pictures and creating memories with my family. So this jerk, who stole my camera has all these pictures of my family, and what's he going to do? Is he's going to throw them away or delete them or whatever,
oh, so
uh,
annoying.
yeah. And so my essentially my wife, we both have the same model camera. My wife has her camera, and we decided to spend the entire day after I was robbed recreating those experiences. So we we put on the birthday party hats, and we're trying to pose for photos to make it look like we're celebrating, And my daughter, who's 7 now, but she was 6 at the time, she was like, "Dad, this is stupid," Like, oh, come on, just pretend, And we went to like a museum that I went to the previous day, and I'm going through quickly. Okay, I think I took a picture of that. I took a picture of that. Like just just spending the day trying to recreate, and then we ended the day actually with that camera getting stolen. So that was pretty cool.
Oh my God.
Create everything. No. But it was I did a whole set at this English speaking comedy show in Mexico City. I did this whole set about getting robbed and what this guy might be thinking if he does view the pictures, and I was regretting that I didn't take more dick pics that day. That would have been cool, Maybe forcing this. Well, if you're gonna steal my camera, he's got to look at my junk.
Exactly. Yes, a lot of it, right? Just
exactly. That's
packing with your junk. Yes,
just all dick pics all the time.
yes. I agree. That would be, yes. He might enjoy it. You never know.
Yeah. There's a story I think that I recount in the book about when I cut off my tip of my thumb when I was a kid. Like I was doing an art project, and I took a knife and just sliced off the tip.
Oh.
Actually, yeah. Well, you can't see it on that camera, but one of my thumbs is longer than the other because I'm missing a tip. Anyways, just the tip, by the way. But I had I remember going to the hospital. Like my roommates were driving me into the hospital. The entire time I'm just in serious pain. It's like, it's bleeding. I could see my bone, and they're playing a CD in the car. I forget which comic it was, but it was a stand-up. It was Rodney Dangerfield. That's what it was. It was
Okay.
And it wasn't a CD. It was a tape. Oh, wow. This is really long ago. Rodney Dangerfield tape playing in the car. And as I'm driving, I start to focus more and more on the tape, the jokes, and I started laughing along with my friends. And next thing I know, I'm like, my sensation of the pain has gone down. I can actually tolerate it without just sitting there going,
Oh, wow.
There's also evidence to suggest that laughter helps us it helps reduce pain. It has analgesic effects as well. So that's another aspect. So, yeah, I mean, honestly, almost everything I've ever suffered through or experienced negatively in my life has been, overcome by some form of laughter or another.
That's amazing. So, my last question to you, because we have 5 more minutes. We're like,
A half hour?
I keep them 30 minutes, and you've been amazing and so eloquent.
I got
Um,
an hour blocked out of my calendar, by the way.
no, no, this one is just 30 minutes.
All right.
It's like a lunch hour live, you know.
I wish I'd known, man. I'd be talking faster. I'd had to prepare stories for you, man. Bullet points,
No, you're doing amazing. If you could give one piece of advice to someone struggling to find joy, what would it be?
Don't take life so seriously.
Mm,
That is absolutely key. And unfortunately, that is part of the problem for a lot of people.
right.
They not everything is going to matter tomorrow. Hardly anything is going to matter next week. And 50 years from now, forget about it. Don't take life so seriously. Yes, there are things that come up that we need to deal with and we need to focus our attention on. That is definitely true, and we should do that. But we should also keep in mind that it's not the end of the world. If it doesn't kill you, it's not the end of the world.
Absolutely.
I followed up the Laughing Cure with a book about stress management because
Oh, I love it.
I wanted to talk more detailed about this managing stress component. And so that book is called The Art of Taking It Easy. This has actually become an international bestseller, by the way. It's been
I love that. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's been translated into 6 different languages and it's been published all over the world. But in that book is the main focus of that book is what I just told you. Try not to, take life too seriously. So much of our suffering, like those intrusive thoughts you have, for example, or we all have them, right? You mentioned them earlier. That's just us taking life a little bit too seriously, and it has that negative output. And if we ruminate on that thought, we cycle through it over and over and over, and maybe we're left alone by ourselves, and it's just like it's ever present. These negative thoughts that keep popping into our head. That's going to influence our emotional state, which in turn is going to influence our physical health.
100. Everything is connected. And you know what? I would love to have you back and we can talk about that book, How to Manage Stress. That would be amazing.
Anything. Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Anytime, Grace. Anytime.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
I always got an hour in my calendar I can block for you, even if you're only going to use 30 minutes of it.
Okay.
But that's okay. That's okay because, if you scheduled an hour with me, I'd probably only need like 30, 40 seconds. So that's all right.
I get it. I don't know if this is going to get it, but I get it. That's so funny.
I just helped you to be healthier just now.
Did, and I felt that laugh. That was a very healthy laugh. Yes, thank you. More cancer cells are being, because we all have cancer cells going through our body, right? More were nuked.
That's right.
Yeah. That's my objective now. It's like, oh yeah, and alive all those cells. Absolutely. But let's have you back and talk about that book that is about stress management, because I think a lot of us can benefit from your knowledge and your experience. And but thank you so much for being on Relationship Coaching Live today. And you guys, you need to get that book, The Laughing Cure. You can get it on Amazon or on Brian's website, drbrianking.com.
Yeah.
And it's a great read, super fun, funny. And I just read it like so quickly. It was awesome. Yes. So thank you so much, Brian. And we'll see you again. We'll book it. Stay after. Don't exit the app.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me, Grace.
You are so welcome. And thank you guys for tuning in. I know we have a bunch on X. That seems to be like my best platform. I don't know what's going on with that. It's so crazy. You never know.
Every time I Google you, I also add X, but I'm looking for something else.
Don't encourage people to do that, please. We'll talk about it afterwards. Okay. All right, you guys. I'm gonna play the outro, and I'll see you next Tuesday at 11:30 Pacific time. Bye.